Welcome back to another episode of Lessons I Learned in Law. This week I'm joined by John Cope, who is at RSA Group Insurance. Now John has a really interesting career, and over the last 6 months he's moved away from General Counsel position that he held on the executive team at RSA into a managing director role of their specialty lines business. And we talk about what it's been like in those first 6 months, the transition. He is in a really outwardly facing, almost a sales position, and insurance market is something that really is built around relationship. So we speak about how he positioned himself for this, how encouraging the company at RSA, how they are with people moving and being liquid internally within their organisation, and how that trickles down. He started out as a corporate lawyer at Freshfields before making the switch in-house into the insurance sector, and RSA was one of the first opportunities that he spoke about when he moved in-house, having done a lot of due diligence and networked with other in-house lawyers to really nail down what it was that he wanted to achieve in his career. So it's been great that he's been there since 2013, and it's opened this new door into a really exciting new chapter of his career, which he shares about in this episode. So there's loads to learn. If you're interested in perhaps making a switch away from law or something adjacent to it, then this one's for you. So I hope you enjoy. Today's episode of Lessons I Learned in Law is proudly brought to you by Wordsmith AI. Now, Wordsmith AI is redefining how in-house legal teams automate routine tasks and repetitive tasks like contract review and internal requests, so that you and your legal team can work strategically and work on proactive projects. They're an Edinburgh-based startup. They're one of the UK's fastest growing startups, and at a really exciting time in their growth journey. They're showing how technology, AI and talent as a combination can really build the modern in-house legal team. So find out more by heading over to wordsmith.ai. Hi John, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Welcome to Lessons I Learned in Law. It's good to sit down and chat about it. I know we've been trying to, since we caught up, I don't know how long ago that was on Zoom, but trying to coordinate something. So on the hottest day of the year ever recorded in London. You've traipsed in from whereabouts?
I did a very slow walk from London Bridge, got off the tube and made sure I wasn't sweating too much. Yeah. So hopefully I've cooled down. Yeah,
you've turned up looking respectable. So well done. No easy feat. So I've given an introduction best I can. But it'd be great if you could share an overview of your current role, and then we'll unpick that and talk about the career history as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I work at an insurance company called the RSA. Yeah. We are owned by a Canadian insurance company called Intact, and we're rebranding later this year to Intact. Okay. But RSA is a very old traditional insurance company. It was known as Royal and Sun Alliance for a long time, probably the second or third oldest insurance company in the world. And I'm the MD of the specialty lines business. And so specialty is insurance for large and complex businesses, typically multinational businesses. And so anything that just needs a bit more expertise, maybe a bit of nuance, some niche experience tends to go into specialty. Our other business is commercial lines, which is more off-the-shelf insurance products for small and medium-sized businesses. So I stepped away from being a lawyer about 6 months ago.
Yeah, I think it was round about, or just before that time we had chatted. Or
I was about to do it, I think, and I was like, God, I'm about to do this. So yeah.
No, brilliant. Well, look forward to hearing a bit more about how it's been first 6 months, and what's probably been a baptism of fire, I can imagine. But how long have you been with the business?
I started in 2013, and I started my career as a lawyer in 2004. So I had 3 years at Freshfields, then had a few years at Debevoise and Plimpton, and then a couple of years at Weil Gotshal, and so focused on private equity, M&A. Right. And so when I joined RSA in 2013, insurance was entirely new. Yeah. I remember the day before my interview Googling what is an insurance policy, and just got lucky that my then boss, the person that hired me, was very keen to kind of hire on attitude rather than specific technical expertise. So it was very new to me back then.
Okay. And was it because was it corporate aligned, like M&A work you were going in there to do, or was it?
Yeah, broad role. Yeah, it was a head office role at that time. So RSA was a FTSE 100 company, and it was a general legal position in the group legal team. And so there would be and was some M&A, some commercial contracts, some insurance expertise not required, but not really specifically too much insurance. And then just all of the odds and sods that come up as an in-house lawyer, tax, investments, pensions, dividends, all of those kind of things, and ended up being a really varied and interesting role for a few years.
Okay, nice. And what I'm always interested with people that have moved into a non-legal role, what was it that attracted you to the legal profession or got you into that in the first place?
So I went to Edinburgh University. I did history. I wanted to be a history teacher. My mum was a teacher, so maybe it was that made me think of it, but certainly no career plans to go into law at all. And then just ended up, I remember hearing about people doing vacation schemes, whether it be in law or accountancy or investment banking or whatever. And I remember just sort of printing off these application forms at the time for a range of different companies. And I just found the legal ones much easier to apply for, because in my summers during university, I'd been a legal secretary in local law firms in Derbyshire. Right. And that was because my mum had forced me to do this secretarial training course after I left school. And so in the end, I kind of fell into it, really enjoyed it. I did a couple of vacation schemes down in London when I was still at uni, and was just attracted by the people, the sort of the intelligence, the competitiveness, just the feeling like you were part of the cutting edge of doing something, and really like the people and the relationship side as well. So definitely fell into it late, and enjoyed my time as a lawyer, no question.
Yeah, nice. What was it? Edinburgh Uni. That's my hunting ground. Where did you stay when you were at Edinburgh?
I lived on Marchmont Road in the same flat for 3 years. Had a year in Pollock Halls before that. And it was not a very clean flat. Same guys for 3 years, but absolutely loved it. Loved Edinburgh, and found London a bit of a shock when I first came down, actually, because just the friendliness of Edinburgh, the size of it, the fact you can walk across it, the beauty. I thought all cities were like that. Yeah. And then I came down to London and struggled a little bit with the size and complexity of it.
Yeah, it's got its spots, London, but yeah, Edinburgh. Like I think I took it for granted growing up. We were back recently, and just walking around in the sun when anywhere it's got the sun out, you're like, it's showing itself in its best light. But it's very, very pretty. I was back at Appleton Tower actually.
Oh right.
We support the 93% Club for in charity, and they have a podcast. So I went and spoke to their Edinburgh version, and in Appleton I was like, oh my goodness, this hasn't changed at all. Just an absolute
big concrete block.
Yeah, concrete block, probably riddled with asbestos. It looks like, but still standing anyway. An eyesore in the rest of the surrounding area. But
it's a great place.
Memory lane. Nice. Well, thank you for that. We'll jump into your first lesson if you could share that.
Yeah, perfect. So this is about responsiveness, and it's something that, interestingly enough, I've re-experienced in the last 6 months in this new role in the business, but something that I learned very early on. I think it was my first supervisor at Freshfields that taught me the importance of it. And it's just about how quickly you can get back to emails or phone calls or texts or requests or whatever it is. And the mistake that I think a lot of junior lawyers made, and I certainly made in my first seat, was if you're presented with something that's complex and it might take you a few days to get back, then you wait a few days before responding. So you answer the whole question that you've been posed. And actually I realised after a bit of education from my first supervisor, but then I really realised it when I was General Counsel and I was engaging with partners of law firms that we were using on big transactions, is that the people that respond really quickly to you, even just with got this, thanks for the business, or we'll think about this, we'll come back to you in X days. Those people are the ones that really stand out. And the advice that was given to me, and something that I've really used in my business role recently, is work out who the people are that you really want to impress. And this isn't always managing upwards at all. There will be people above you in the organisation that are on this list, but there'll be people at your level, there'll be people below you. Some will be internal, some will be external. But if someone on that list contacts you, everything else gets dropped and you get a response to them. Right. And it's something that stands you in good stead, whatever career you're in, but specifically in law when you're acting for clients.
Right. So you would apply that if a client got in touch with you about something, you would reply immediately.
But also my internal people as well. So there was definitely back then when I was a junior lawyer, a list of, if a partner contacted me immediately, get back more often than not with a yes. Always showing keenness or wanting to get back and say, yes, I'll take on more work. What I experience now in the business role is, in specialty insurance, we get all of our insurance through brokers. And so it's so important that when a broker gets hold of you, they contact you for any reason, then they get a swift response. And just by being responsive, just by having that habit, you will put yourself head and shoulders above most people at your level or elsewhere in the organisation.
It just manages expectations, doesn't it? And I think from my side, I used to say to people in our team as well, I just want it out of my head. So if I've sent an email, a thumbs up. It's easy to just a thumbs up. Like, got it, great. That's now they're dealing with it. It'll come back. I think it's good. Really good practical advice. In terms of like setting that up for your team, is it something that you have embedded in teams that you've managed as well?
Yeah, tried to, definitely. And parts of our business at RSA now are really specific about it. So particularly in market-facing roles, where we're quite formulaic about what KPIs we have about responsiveness to brokers, how often we'll go and see brokers. In in-house legal teams that I've managed, you always want to get that balance right, because the in-house legal team at RSA was a bunch of very senior lawyers, so you don't want to teach them to suck eggs and start being too specific, but it's more about just setting expectations, talking about it openly, making sure people realise that those habits are what's expected of you. But I think actually it's the good lawyers learn it so early that it's then some practice that they've always had. And so it's probably more important to get to those junior lawyers and just think, whatever level you're at, when you start in an organisation, start in a law firm, in-house lawyer, if you work that out and you're responsive, then you'll quickly see the benefits of your career.
Must say it took you weeks to respond to my email. I can't be on the list. Never mind. I'll work my way up. Anyone that's sending you emails will be like, oh, that's true. I was in the circle of trust. Never mind. And like in terms of sorry, lost track of another question I had. In terms of like that with your like external counsel, like what other, like you've touched on that, but what other things do you look for from externals?
That's a great question. Well, it's amazing how many get, even at a senior level in external law firms, don't get that responsiveness thing right, but the ones that do really stand out. And I suppose the other one is just like being solutions focused. You always want this relationship with your external lawyers where you've got this problem and they are relentlessly trying to find solutions. And sometimes you get into a different kind of narrative, a bit more negative, and habits that aren't necessarily productive, where the external lawyer is the one that's raising problems and you are the one saying, hang on, could we do this or could we do this? And they're relentlessly saying no. And that's just completely the wrong dynamic. And I've had that before. I've had to give feedback. I remember at quite a junior level when I was at RSA as an in-house lawyer, having to give feedback to quite a senior partner of a law firm and say, look, this just isn't working. Because what I'm looking for really is, I made the mistake of telling my boss, and then my boss was like, well, you've got to tell them now. But I was just like, this really isn't working, because ultimately you're the one that really has to solve these problems. So if you're raising a problem, can you try and raise a solution? Some things come up, but this is how you would get past it, or you might want to consider this. And so it's quite interesting to look at those dynamics and how they play out.
Why do you think that's? Because the law firms are waiting, they're just waiting to be instructed? Do you want us to solve the problem for you, or like I don't know, is it ingrained within? Because I hear that quite regularly, but I wonder if it's...
I think maybe just something about perhaps just behaviours or leadership behaviours that when you're in an organisation tend to really get prioritised. So the people in a business that tend to succeed are the ones that have these habits and are solutions focused and want to get to the end result quickly. Sometimes in law firms, they're not set up that way. Like they might, the people that reach the top of a law firm might be the ones who have the best technical skill, or, the ones that present best internally or have managed their own internal relationships. And so sometimes those behaviours aren't necessarily incentivized. But I think, we were just talking about AI quickly before we started, and that's one area I think that will start to incentivize the right behaviours, because increasingly, the technical skill set of law will just be taken over bit by bit by bit by AI.
Yeah.
We can obviously debate how accurate it is and what mistakes, these AI systems and tooling tend to make. And of course, they're at kind of baby level in terms of their development, but it's only going to get better. And so that kind of prioritization of technical skill set, I think maybe will diminish. And then the prioritization will be, well, what are your behaviors? How quickly do you respond, and what your relationship's like?
Yeah. And then, like, what level were you when you moved in-house?
I qualified in 2006 and I moved in-house in 2013. Right. So I was about 7-8 years qualified. Yeah. Basically realised that it was going to be a very long road to make partner at the firm that I was at. Also just was very stressed. I was working really hard. I was working for private equity funds. Always felt slightly outside of my comfort zone, and there was just too many situations where I'd had holidays or weekends cancelled, and it was a big pull to try and move away. I always feel sometimes, I think, as a private practice lawyer, that there's some element of failure maybe or stepping down if you go in-house. And within about an hour of starting at RSA, all of that had gone. Nice. I just realised I was in a job that was much better suited for me.
Yeah. Try becoming a recruiter from private practice. That felt like a
big leap at the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's works out if you're passionate about what you're doing, right, and you enjoy, you're good at what you enjoy. That's what I found. That's what I have found. But and insurance, were you looking at other industries, or what were you?
Actually,
what was your main priorities?
Insurance, the technical side of insurance was attractive to me, but I went through a process of about 3 or 4 months, and I've still got this spreadsheet. Actually, I just had coffees with as many people as I could possibly lay my hands on. Friends of friends, contacts, whatever, who'd moved in-house. I just wanted to get a picture of what the in-house world was like. Yeah. Because I'd been given good advice that basically said, like, no 2 in-house jobs are the same. And I was convinced that I wanted a friendly and supportive atmosphere. I think having worked in, US private equity land for quite a while, I really wanted people to be nice to me in the nicest way. I really wanted a FTSE 100 company or something as significant as that, because I thought you can take a step down, so to speak, or go more niche at a later stage. But once you've done that, you might struggle to go back up to the big companies if you want to. So I thought I'll try and start as large as possible. And then I just wanted as broad a role as possible. So coming back to your question about what I was doing, just thought, well, actually, there's loads of stuff here that I don't know. It's really new. It's not like I'm going into one tiny niche area of law. And literally the first job that came up, so I did all this process of meeting people, made this spreadsheet, and the first job then that came up when I went to the recruiter was this one at RSA. So I was desperate to get it, very hopeful that they would hire on, as I said, like attitude and approach rather than how many years as an insurance lawyer have you had. And it's something that I've definitely taken forward. Like now, even though I work in a very technical industry, I'm always willing to, take a punt on people because you can learn whatever technical, information you don't yet know.
Yeah. For us, those clients that are looking at what's maybe not on paper and thinking, and this is where we can leverage some element of influence, right? To say, like, have a meeting, meet them for coffee. Yeah, it's worth your while. Those are like the most rewarding placements you make in recruitment, because you've helped someone move into something that they might not have expected otherwise. But I think it's so important, particularly when, like, in-house, you're less of a technical, like the technical ability. It's how you deliver it, and your ability to align with the business's goals, and in doing that, a lot of questions and being curious around the people that you're working with. Great. So we'll move on to lesson 2.
Lesson 2 is about how you react to failure or making mistakes.
Okay.
And there's a couple of things that come to mind. One is, and again, my first supervisor at Freshfields, he was just absolutely brilliant with the obvious and multiple mistakes that you make as a trainee. And he just said, the most important thing is be open about it. Right. That you will make mistakes. You'll screw up all the time as a lawyer. Of course you will. And it's an industry that kind of pretends almost that those mistakes don't happen, because those mistakes can be costly, but they'll happen. And he said the worst thing you can do ever is hide it or obfuscate it or pretend it didn't happen. And that was great advice. And I think that's just something to learn as a young person. You will be in a situation where you think your world's about to end because of something that's happened. Your world's never going to end. Yeah. Everything is solvable. And every trainee or junior lawyer has got some example And I've got many that come to mind where I was in that position, and quite, thankfully, I was like, no, this is what's happened. The sooner you can do it, the more you can do it with no defensiveness. Just be open about what's happened. Of course, it'll feel like your word's going to end, but it's not. And the second thing is then, if you really mess up, and I did, and I won't go into too much detail, but I had this situation at one of the US law firms I work with, where I really made a bad mistake. Long story short, huge pile of powers of attorney, and I was supposed to double check it. The trainees had gone through it, the junior associate had gone through it. I was supposed to check it before this deal completed, and I didn't. And one was missing, and it's about 250 powers of attorney. One was missing, and it meant that this deal was either going to crater or get delayed. And I only found out about this at sort of 4 a.m. when I got phoned up by the bank's lawyers who checked them. And I had the most stressful 3 hours of my personal and professional life trying to fix this issue. And I ended up fixing it. But it really damaged my reputation internally at that firm. And it was the first time that I'd properly had my identity threatened. Like, things had gone wrong before, but I'd never properly sat there and gone, God, maybe I'm not a very good lawyer. And I knew that people internally were talking about it, because it was a real near miss on a very significant transaction. And it really led to me kind of recalibrating what I wanted to do with my career, and it led to me moving in-house in the end. I can now look back after 12 years and say it's the best thing that ever happened. And I suppose that's the only other lesson. Like, and however bad it is, whatever you're going through in your career, I guarantee you'll look back and go, everything happens for a reason. It's the best thing that happened, because it's those times, I suppose, where you really learn what you're about.
Just going to pause for a couple of seconds and say that today's episode is brought to you in partnership with Wordsmith AI. The Wordsmith AI is redefining how in-house legal teams work and operate, and how they automate repetitive tasks like contract review and other internal queries, and fielding those internal requests that are repetitive and can clog up how a legal team works. It allows in-house legal teams, frees up time to work on more strategic projects proactively. They're based in Edinburgh, so it's close to my heart, and they're one of the fastest growing legal technology providers globally. And they're really redefining how you can take technology and people and talent and transform the way that a business operates. So check them out at wordsmith.ai. Yeah, really hard in the moment, but yeah, like you said, the learnings that come out of it. How would you, like, if you're on the receiving end as a manager, or someone's fessing up to a mistake or a failure, how do you? What would your advice be to someone to be like, this is how you need to react to that?
Yeah, calmly, definitely. Yeah. Definitely calmly. It's not always easy. I think probably it's very easy to react positively and calmly when you're faced with someone who's open and is clearly conscientious, and it means a lot to them. There's some sense of humility. I think probably the times I've struggled with that are when you've got someone who just doesn't care. Like, that's difficult. But you've got to react calmly. And I suppose generally, it's never a bad thing to be calm in a work environment. Like, I've worked in some stressful environments. I've worked on some stressful deals. That private equity area, especially, much more of a stressful world than the insurance world is. And I'm glad I went through that. But the people that stand out for me, because you forget all the specifics, you forget the numbers and what happens, and all of that just melts. The people that stand out are the ones that were calm and just had this swan-like impression. Everything's going to be all right, because of course it always is. Like, whatever you're stressed about at that time, give it a week or a month or a year, then you'll have forgotten about it. And so, yeah, certainly trying to react calmly is quite important, and you'll make an impression on the people that you're talking to if you do that.
Yeah, build the trust, I imagine, with that, and knowing that. I suppose you have to just, behind the scenes, you're taking action to backpedal.
And fix the swan really quick. Well, very often the legs are pedaling very fast below the surface, or paddling below the surface. But the important thing is that you convey some sense of calmness.
So how did the switch into 6 months ago? How did it come around?
I spent a lot of time asking for it, basically. Right. And so Intact is this Canadian insurance company. They're basically the largest Canadian insurer, and they took over RSA and privatised it, and that happened 4 years ago. And they've basically instilled a different leadership model in RSA, and it's one that they're very proud of. And they look at leadership as a separate thing. They don't necessarily think that just because you've reached a certain stage of technical skill or experience that therefore you can lead. And they're very keen to move people around. So if you look at the top people at Intact level in Canada, they've all done different roles. They've done jobs in different functions that don't necessarily correlate to each other, jobs in different businesses. And so I'm basically the first exec example of that at RSA. And I just asked for it. I just spent a good year speaking to my boss and other people and just saying, I'm ready for something different. And I want to be seen not just as a lawyer, and I want to be seen as a leader. And I was also really open and said, I don't mind, I don't need to stay at this level. I was general counsel, I was on the exec team, reported to the CEO, said I don't need to stay at that level. Like I don't know anything about the business. I'll quite happily step down and report to someone who is one of my current peers. And that happens quite a lot as well. But then I got lucky. At the start of last year, I moved into the job of MD of our personal lines business. And that wasn't really a frontline trading role because we decided to sell our PL business. And so it was part delivery and part communication, part engagement. There's about 1,000 people that work in that business. They're obviously immediately disenfranchised by this decision. They're all either going to be made redundant or transferred to new insurers, or hopefully we could find new homes for them. And so the job was really about getting on a train and going around to all these different sites we've got in the north of England and trying to build relationships and trying to keep people engaged and make sure our customers were looked after. And I absolutely loved it. Real stretch, but I loved it. And then I did that for about 12 months. Right. And then this opportunity came up in basically one of our frontline trading positions, which was another stretch again. But to answer your question, I just asked for it. I just kept saying, please consider me, please consider me. And eventually I got lucky with the decision.
Right. And your boss at the time was the CEO, right?
Yeah.
And that's who you were asking. And how much of it do you think is like a culture thing, like between like that ability to move around and looking at people outside of their technical expertise? Is that, do you think it's the Canadian business? And in the US, you'll have a lot more fluidity in that. I think
the culture makes a difference, definitely, and it's a strong culture that so Charles Brindamore, our group CEO, he's basically instilled it. And once the rest of the organisation does it and people start to push it, then everyone catches on. And it's quite a powerful incentivising tool for people to feel like not only will most of the positions be recruited from internally rather than externally, and we've got a really high proportion of those senior roles that come from beneath. But the second thing is that even as a lawyer, there's a possibility to go and do a business roles. And I think, funnily enough, and this is an unfair accusation, but sometimes people think that lawyers are uncommercial. They don't naturally associate you with decision making or being speedy or solution focused. And so I think the fact that at Intact they were willing to take a lawyer and put me into this business role, I think probably said something to people. It was like, well, if a lawyer can do it, then maybe I can. Right. And I think it was an important statement, because really in an insurance company you've got so many different skill sets, so many different functions and technical expertise. You've got claims, underwriting, risk, compliance, legal. There's probably 10 or 11 different people around the table, all with a different approach. And so the ability to just take one of them and go, actually, well, focus on this. You're not going to start micromanaging people because you don't know the business. Yeah. There's a load that you've got to learn. We're going to support you, but just go for it. It's been quite an exciting opportunity for me.
Brilliant. And is it equal proportions across all levels? Do people move around and have that switch across, or is it at leadership level?
I think more so at the younger level, actually, because there are more roles and they tend to be easier to do. And so I'm sure there'll be others at a more senior level soon. It will just start to snowball. The other thing that we're really trying to do is get people out to Canada and the US and vice versa as well. Right. So it's fun being part of that new organisation. I think as a lawyer, you can quite often work on these mergers and acquisitions. You're never really around to see the people impact of it. But over the last 2-3 years, I've really seen that. So it's been fascinating to see how our behaviour at RSA has changed, how we've sort of adopted Intact's values and started to approach work in a different way.
Nice. And what does your day-to-day look like compared to how it did as General Counsel?
It's really different. It is really different. There's always a market-facing element, and so because we get all of our business through brokers, the broker relationships are key. And so probably once or twice a day, I will be talking to brokers, either trying to sell our business, create a feel about our business, solve a problem related to our business, or just build relationships. And so there's always a broker-facing element. I'm out 3 or 4 nights a week. So I'm out tonight with some of our reinsurance brokers. There's a huge social side to insurance and particularly specialty. And it all takes place in the London market. It's the oldest insurance market in the world. We are dramatically modernising. It's no longer kind of overweight, middle-aged white men in their 50s, basically. It's really changing from a diversity perspective, from a kind of thought leadership perspective, from just generally approach to data and things like this. It's really being transformed as we speak. But there's still an element about building relationships, like face-to-face relationships. We're a business that's basically back in 5 days a week. You're still probably going to get on faster if you build those human connections with people. So, 3 or 4 nights out a week. And then I suppose the rest of it is just performance focus, motivation, spending time with the team and the leadership and communication side of things as well. So it's different to the General Counsel job, definitely.
Yeah, sounds it definitely, for sure. Have you embraced that social aspect of it and that piece?
I've had to. There's no question. I've become much better at pretending to drink, and that's accepted. Like that was the other thing. I was expecting to be like, this sort of clubby, you have to drink. Actually, no one cares at all. And so either I'll go early and leave early, or not drink, or just like hold a bottle for 4 hours at some social event. It's become much more important to look after what I'm eating and exercising, because you're just tired all the time. And so like looking after yourself, I think this is true of any job in the law, really. You end up working so hard that looking after yourself physically becomes very important. But I think my personality has changed a little bit as well. Like I've always been a natural introvert. Like I've done the social side because I've had to. But the social side of this job and just the time speaking in front of people is so extreme that I think I'm becoming a lot better at doing that. And I kind of need that 2 hours in a dark room a little bit less than I used to.
Right, good. Sounds like it's a great first 6 months though.
It's been good fun, yeah.
What's been the thing you've put that's the biggest success in the last 6 months?
God, that's a good question. I think probably just like the willingness to learn. Like I've not been afraid to ask stupid questions, and I'm still working incredibly hard. Like I've still realised the importance of just understanding the basics of the new world, and I'll know when I start to procrastinate this or fake it. Sometimes where you know that it's really important to read something properly, to really go the extra mile, understand it. And I'm still sticking to that, and I haven't started taking shortcuts yet. So I'm pleased with that. I've put a lot of effort into it.
Nice, that sounds good. And do you find like some lawyers that have moved outside of the law or are considering it, but this would be a drawback, like missing the intellectual stimulus or that element of it? Has there been any of that?
I think that could definitely be a feature, because it's a much less technical job, no question. There are technical sides to it in terms of the performance and the business technicality. But I think, the legal technical side, particularly in terms of the wording or the real technical legal knowledge, I think that's something that would attract many lawyers. And you're probably going to miss that if that's what attracted you to law in the first place. But I was never like that. Like I wasn't sitting there at 14 going, I really want to be a lawyer. And I didn't do an undergraduate law degree. And I think there's some statistics somewhere that says if you didn't, then you're more likely to end up, peeling away and going into something different. And I think, honestly, reflecting on it now, and I know people change their narratives to suit their circumstances, but it was probably always the people element of the law that I enjoyed. I enjoyed the people that profession attracted. And I did like the technical sides and the demands, but that was not really what floated my boat. And so I've not missed that technical side. And do you know what? I don't know where my career will go in the future. So it's not like I'd sit here, and a lot of people ask me the question, it's not like I'd sit here and I do not regret being a lawyer at all. I loved being a lawyer. I'd very happily in the future step back into a general counsel role. It would have to be a particular kind of general counsel role, I think. But I certainly don't want to close off those avenues. I'm only 6 months into the new one. I would imagine that any lawyer thinking about the move, you've just got to weigh up exactly what you think you want to get out of it. Like if you're doing it for the hierarchy or you're doing it for the money or anything like that, you're probably doing it for the wrong reasons. Like what is the makeup of this new job you're going into? And do you think that'll suit what you're interested in? And then just go for it.
Yeah. I think nothing's forever, isn't it? It's like you go in and if, as you said, like it doesn't, you'll take so much more if it was a period of time out of practicing as a general counsel, that you'll take so much back to it as someone that's been on the receiving end and delivered it or from a different angle. So sounds like a great move so far. Cool. So and outside of work, you said like keeping fit and that. So how do you what's your keep fit schedule?
I've been quite good at getting up early, and so a mix of going to the gym and sort of lifting as heavier weights as my old body can handle, and getting back into running as well. And I'm definitely one of these people that runs for the mental health rather than the physical side. Like I go barely above walking pace, but I love that. Like go and trot around the park for 30-40 minutes, listen to some music. Spend a lot of time with my boys. I've got a son, Rory, who's 15, and Patrick, who's 13. So they obviously take up a lot of time, which I enjoy.
Are they sporty?
The younger one is, older one not so much, but the younger one's into his football definitely.
Yeah, nice, cool. We'll move on to the third and final lesson.
So the third lesson was just about the importance of positive mental imagery, and this is something that I've appreciated much more in the last 2 or 3 years. And you can use it in a number of different ways, but I think people don't realise the importance of just putting your mind to something if you want to achieve it. And with me, it was all about public speaking and how relaxed or terrified I was in front of people. If I look back to when I was a junior lawyer, I really didn't enjoy giving presentations. Even when I was at university, I can remember just periods of real anxiety about it. Didn't really enjoy socialising that much. I can remember times when I was socially anxious walking into rooms, certainly around large numbers of people when the focus or attention was on me. I absolutely hated it. And over time, simply through breathing techniques, using positive mental imagery, imagining myself being calm in certain situations, I've seen a real step change. And that's probably that you asked me what the biggest difference was. I now speak in front of large numbers of people at least once a day. And the simple fact of having imagined it, like I do it on my commute. If I've got a big presentation coming up, I'll imagine exactly where I'm going to be. I'll imagine being calm. I'll imagine the feeling of being calm and confident. And I think it's had a massive impact in my ability to operate in that situation. So I still get nerves, but I just had a level of comfort that's come probably through just imagining myself being calm in that situation. And I suppose that's why it was a lesson in law, is that if you're at an early stage in your career and you have a fear or a difficulty or a challenge or whatever, or even if you just want to get somewhere in your life, just start thinking about it, because you can bet your bottom dollar that your behavior will start to follow what you think about regularly. And it's not magic by any stretch. But your mind's an incredibly powerful tool, and it would be one lesson that if I was a junior lawyer, I wish I'd learned a lot earlier. I came to it very late.
Yeah. And did you work with anyone on that?
No, I never have. I've read every self-help book there is, basically, and spent a long time, probably prompted actually by that mistake I had at the US law firm and the feelings that engendered in me. And it took a while to get over. And then had that transition into being an in-house lawyer. It took a while, probably a couple of years at RSA before I felt like I'd properly got my confidence back. But I never really found the answer in self-help books. And you know, maybe just understanding that, just take a long-term view. You're never going to read a book that's going to fix your problems overnight. It just doesn't work like that. But if you start to think in a different way and set your mind towards where you want to get to, then I'll be very surprised if you don't end up there after a period of time.
Yeah, thereabouts. It's proximity to it, right? If you're in the right, you're networking with the right people, or you're whichever it is. I've never been on the public speaking front. I've never felt. I think I always look at people who just seem natural, and it's I'm like, oh my goodness, how do you become that guy or that person? But I think there's no like as you said, like imagining it, but also like knowing your stuff. And I've always felt there are people winging it, but actually they're probably not. They've probably spent a lot more time. Even just if it is on a commute, but flexing the muscle. It's, I think it's a skill set that could have so much impact on like the way you communicate and how to do that effectively in front of people is something I've been meaningfully trying to improve on over the last 6 months or so. But still fills me with a bit of fear. But, And I'm asking. You've spoken about books there, but asking for podcast and book recommendations.
Well, my favourite book is one by John Irving. It's called A Prayer for Owen Meany, and it's absolutely brilliant, set in the 19th century, and it's about a little kid that thinks he is fated to do special things, and you realise through the course of the book that maybe he is, but it's brilliantly written, really, really enjoyable, and has quite simply the best ending of any book ever. Podcasts, you know what, I don't necessarily have the attention span for podcasts. I do listen to Desert Island Discs, mainly when I'm in the car with my wife, because she likes to listen to them, and so I'll always listen to it when she encourages me to do so. And I like The Rest is History, Rest is Politics. I listen to those sometimes. But my problem is after about 2 or 3 minutes, my mind just tends to wander. So and I have to rewind it and get back to where I was. And so I'm not a natural podcast listener.
It's Gary Lineker that owns that Goalhanger Productions.
He owns everything, doesn't he?
The Rest is Everything, that whole series. Well, he's one of the, I think he's a half. He owns half of that business.
Right.
I was looking into
wow.
The Rest is Law. Maybe he needs to.
This is the start, isn't it? Have me back, right?
That's exactly how I imagine it. It can happen. Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's, I love chatting to people that have been in-house or as a lawyer and moved into something different. It's I think it's inspiring to people that might look for something different. And if anyone was to reach out to you, like in terms of, I don't want to inundate you, but thinking about making a switch, or if they might have any questions, would you?
Oh, fantastic! Definitely, love helping people with any tidbits or support or advice. So just reach out to me on LinkedIn or anything. Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Nice one. And they'll get back to you if it's a priority.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get a quick response now. Jeez.
Cool. Well, thanks for taking the time.
No problem. Nice to chat.
Yeah,
thanks a lot.
Cheers.
I'd like to say a big thank you to our sponsor, Wordsmith AI, for sponsoring today's episode. As a legal tech company, Wordsmith AI share our belief that great legal teams can take amazing tools and transform the way that in-house legal teams work and operate. So to find out more about Wordsmith, head over to wordsmith.ai. So that wraps up another episode of Lessons I Learned in Law, powered by Harriet Brown In-House Legal Recruitment. Now, I share these stories each week to help lawyers of all levels, and both in private practice or working in-house. And it doesn't matter if you're early in your career or you're already leading a team. Learning from your peers or from those who have walked in your shoes before, then this is the show for you. If you find it useful, I would love it if you could share it with your colleagues or share it with your network, or drop us a message just to let us know that you're listening and that you're out there. Feedback really helps us grow the show and take it in the direction that gives the most value to you, our listeners. So until next time, I've been Scott Brown. Thank you.